Well, this covers a lot of ground, as you can see. Some of the places I really couldn't identify, but I cut out a lot of the stuff that absolutely mystified me. Here's JD, I guess, when he was probably a sophomore or junior at Horace Mann. He's really swimming. I didn't speed the motion up on this either. I guess this was a sprint. He looks really good, doesn't he? I should note because I was a swimmer too, and he's really. Here he comes back again. This might have been 100 that he was doing. They have a 25-yard pool there, I think. He's a good turn. It's a good push off, and he's really riding the water extremely well there. So that was a good swim. His art up at the Worcester Academy, I moved him out of Horace Mann because he didn't seem to like it there. It was a little bit too academic, and he had really other interests, you know. So he did a lot of sports there. He played basketball and he played baseball, and he met his lifelong friend there, John Weiser, who appears here from time to time. Here's a classic photo of the trip that we took when we bought the Pollo Primavera. It was just out of the shipping crate, and we came out of Wantagh, Long Island. This was in March, and it was cold, and we sailed up the East River. We came in through the Throgs Neck Bridge area, you know, and then up through the East River here, and you can see New York there in the background, and I think it's Roosevelt Island, and we were sailing a hook, and I think we're finally out of the East River now. We're into the Sound, and this boat was really cooking. These are the two river pilots who took us around, and here we are at Johnson Marina. That was where we finally wound up. That's around New Haven, Connecticut, and this looks like we have the Spinnaker up here. So this is not that maiden trip. I think this is there's young me. Looks like I was out on this with Chuck, and we're taking some readings, and I don't know where the hell we are. That looks like Art. That's like Judy and Chuck. It's maybe me on the deck. This is probably in Long Island Sound, maybe a couple of days after we brought it up. And now I think that's either Art or John Weiser. You're coming in. It looks like John. And those are the lips of Cookie. And there's the Worcester baseball team. That's Art. And, I guess he was number 13. I don't know who's batting here. He and John Weiser were almost like twins at that stage. The big slide, there's Art there. I guess he was playing third base coach there. And now he's going to come up, and he's number 13, I guess was his number. I guess that's John was 13 or 14. They were trouble. There's John right there. He's now the president of one of the Sony TV Pictures divisions. He's done very well for himself out in Los Angeles. Very hardworking, very affable young man, and it looks like we have maybe an injury here. So this is, you know, Art did a whole lot of sports. This is Margaret. I have no idea where that's JD. I guess is that 15 or 16 years of age. There's Uncle Jimmy looking like Clint Eastwood with a beard. They're all still in high school here, and I'm trying to remember where the hell this was. This might have been at Horace Mann. There's Cookie. There's me. I look dapper, don't I? I got the old French suits on and everything. I tell you, man, unbelievable. This might have been at Horace Mann. In fact, I think it was Horace Mann, and there was some affair there. Of course, I'm still smoking at that stage. You see, I haven't really wised up. And those some nice pictures of Margaret. She hasn't changed much in 35 years, you know, so just about the same. And this may have been Margaret's graduation. I'm not too sure, yeah, that's possible because she would have graduated first, or was that's why we're taking all the pictures of her. Because she had a weird route. She had gone to Mother Cabrini, then to Cardinal Spellman, and then finally back to Horace Mann to finish up before she went to Dartmouth. So those are some nice pictures of her. We all have the cool hair and everything, you know. Look at Cookie, looks good, doesn't she? Jimmy, and this is one of JD's friends from Horace Mann. Here we're back on the boat with Jim Simpson from California, an old buddy, and he's taking a toke there, it looks like. This was in Sag Harbor, and we had a great day. This isn't underpowered. This is just your sailing, so this boat could really take off. We had a nice wind that day. We were racing some boats. There was a big green schooner that a friend of ours, about a 60-footer. We were racing him at this stage, if I remember. And there's Chuck, and there's Jim's wife. Jim at the helm again. Yeah, this is before. This is probably the first couple of years of the Polio sailing. You know, this is. I went to all solid nets after a while. It was just a little easier to get around. And there's Cookie, and there she is. Yeah, so that was. We had a great time. The girls look great. They're all. This Chuck, I think he's really. He just can't believe his good luck. And to have so many good-looking, half-naked women around, and you can see the boat, even with 7 or 8 people on, is kind of cooking. And now, I'd be damned to find out what it says. This may be San Francisco, and that's JD for sure. It's either Washington D.C. or San Francisco. If it's only JD, then it's San Francisco. If it's not, it's in Washington D.C. There's JD. I think this is on a trip. No, that looks like Art there too. Maybe that is JD. And here goes up. There's Art. So this was somewhere. I have no idea where the hell this was, to tell you the truth. This may have been up around my mother and father's place. We were all kind of visiting. They had ducks around there. This was around Tom's River. Everybody loved to kind of chase the dopey ducks, you know. They were worth chasing. I know that was a little visit that we took there, and here they are. Here's my dad, and this looks like JD and Art. They were just about ready to go to college. There's Pauline and Margaret. I guess Margaret may have been in college at that stage, or just begun to go in, and the boys are probably wishing they were somewhere else. What they were up to no good there. That they just tended to be have a little mischief in them at that stage, which is the natural thing. Before they went their separate ways, but into their colleges. And his dad. This is that's been one of these cold days in New Jersey. I had these big coats that I wore because. We used to go sailing in the early spring and the late fall. It's cold, you know. It's very cold. But there's my mother. She doesn't seem to be bothered by anything. It's just that old New Englander, you know. And let's see. This is in California. Finally, I went with JD to Stamford, and on the way there, saw my friend Hux, now living in Dana Point, and this is part of the Pacific Coast Highway, which is that great highway that you can take, and it was the best thing that California ever did by far. And here's San Francisco itself with all of the little gingerbread homes, and I think we kind of hung around here for a while. I went to see Becky Maloney, I think. I'm not too sure. And here, these people, I don't even know who they are. I guess they're just people in downtown San Francisco is who they were. I just wanted to catch a little bit of the crowd. And there's the old trolley, you know, and that's the usual street musicians. And That's I don't know what that is. That's one of the museums, and here's the waterfront, which is a great waterfront. And here's a little bit more of the waterfront and the homes on the waterfront in San Francisco. It's always a nice place to visit. You know, I like it here, and I think we went sailing here with Hucks and with Jim Simpson at some stage, and I think that was the Oakland Bridge, and these are some of the boats. It's a windy, cold place to sail. It's like sailing in Florida during the dead of winter, you know, on a cold winter day. But anyway, I've always liked the waterfront there, and I've liked the homes. Here's Jim Simpson and myself, and I think that's JD was with us. We chartered a boat, and we went out sailing on the San Francisco Bay, which is always a thrill. It's a great sailing area. You know, the winds are always kicking up. I think that's Hucks there, the younger Hucks. There he is right there. And Jim, and I think that's Niles. I think that's Jim's boy there, if I remember. And I guess he was about 9 or 10 or 12 at that time. We had all worked together. Hucks came out to straighten us out on the East Coast. He was a West Coast guy, and Jim eventually went out there. I think that's Alcatraz, and this is a little trip. We went north up around Big Sur and places like that. We went up to Stanford too, which was the reason for the trip. But we went to also take advantage of this great coastal ride, and here we go. You know, just taking some shots. It doesn't do justice to the area, which is really beautiful. And I guess that's looking down, and that's along the coast, and la-di-da, la-di-da. Pretty soon we're going to hit something. I guess it's starting to rain, and there's one of those great bridges they built over it. And there's a nice picture of a JD there. I guess he was a senior then in Horace Mann, and he chose to go to Amherst rather, but I thought it would be good to see the West Coast. It is different, you know, but he liked the East Coast colleges, so that's where he went. I would have liked to have gone to a West Coast college. I think it's where everything that's really new happens, but he's a kind of traditionalist, so he went to Amherst. He had a good time there, and he kind of prepared him for his career as an art critic and a writer. I guess we're just taking more pictures of that area as we approached Stanford. I don't know whether this is afterwards or forwards, but we're getting into cow country here, basically. And I think that Stanford's in Palo Alto. I'm not too sure. It's around Palo Alto anyway, which we're going to get to soon, if my memory serves me correctly, when I went to edit this. A lot of this film I should have thrown out, but since I've already gone through all the rendering of it, I just keep it like it is, you know. And it's a little part of California. How can you beat that coast, huh? It's really majestic. It's a long walk down to the beach. That's a problem. There's just a couple of places where it dips down where you can get onto the beach. But just as you're going by in the car, here's another shot of JD. We were probably a little lower here to the beach. There are places where I think we eventually got onto the beach. And this might have been one of the little paths down, and there it is, yeah. So we're going to make a little trip down to the beach there. And there are people down there, you know, walking around on the beach. It's a really... Looks like JD got himself pretty wet out there. He has an SOS there or something, whatever he's doing. But the water's always so damn cold, you know. It's like you see all those beach boys surfing and stuff. You have to be nuts. Even in Los Angeles, the water's just too cold for me. You know, you can do it in August or something like that. Only the transplanted Corey brothers can take that cold water. They just have to body surf, you know. And this is, I don't know what's going on here. This is one of those beaches that you can get to. And I think we're just taking some shots. And here we're back, I think, in San Francisco. This is Chinatown. Yeah, it looks like Chinatown, right? And these are just people, I don't know who they are, but just recording a little bit of our trip there. It's a nice city. It's not quite as crazy as New York City, but I haven't been there lately, so I don't know. You know, it's, New York City has kind of lost its ethnic neighborhoods, except for Chinatown probably, but everything else has gone the way. It's a very expensive Manhattan now compared to when I lived there and when the kids lived there. That looks like maybe that was Hux there too. Maybe he came down to do a little visiting with us. He likes to shop, He's like a woman. He has to go to the latest things. And there's, of course, I think the Transamerica building and da-di-da. And now we're back in cow country going up north, even further north. And I guess we're back on the beach again. These movies may be out of sequence a bit because when I had them transferred from Super 8 onto VHS tape, which is why they're so grainy, that we lost a lot of the definition, It's a shame. But at least we have a pretty good record of it right now, And this, I think, was, we went down to, there's Hux and I don't know who the girl was, and the girl he was dating at the time, he was doing some kind of funky push-ups. And again, out of sequence. I think this is up. Finally, I think we had to Stanford, and JD took a tour, but if he wasn't too impressed, then I guess he just didn't like the vibe of it. So, if you don't like the vibe of a place, get the hell out. Although I never understood college, to tell you the truth. I didn't like or I didn't dislike the vibe of Columbia. It was just where I wound up. Not knowing why, but that's where I wound up. And of course, I was exposed to some great poetry that was kind of changed my life, and some great teachers of poetry too. So I think this is more Stanford, if I'm, or at least the surrounding area there. It's a student thing, lots of bikes, dancing, all that stuff that young people do because they don't have anything else to do, and besides, when you're young, it's fun. And these are just, I think these are just some of the students. I didn't know if it was anybody when I was doing the editing, so I figured I'd better catch it, And I remember these kind of colonnaded halls at Stanford, so I figured I'd better get it down. Native memory, and it's a nice campus. It's in California, lots of space. There's some posters for some country western singing that was going to go on. It's not the kind of Ivy League thing, as the old stucco roofs and all the rest of it, and the kind of plaster walls, mock adobe, whatever. And now I guess we're headed back. I don't know whether we flew out of San Francisco, but we're back in San Francisco, or we may not have ever left, to tell you the truth, the way these films were assembled. I thought I had them in sequence when they were given to the people who did it, but they didn't look like the brightest apples in the bunch, but I just wanted to get it done. This is many, 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 many years ago, and finally got around 7 or 8 years ago to transferring the VHS into videos for the PC. And I don't know whose house this is. This looks like Hux's house. I think Hux at the time was living in a house in the country. This may have been the gal he was going out with. It looks like him. And I think we stayed here too. He was able to put us up here. I think some German Nazi owned the place. He was really a pain in the ass, but he used to rent the place out to people who were between whatevers, and I think the Hux was between marriages at the time and whatever. no idea. This is just a food store, and this is a little sign telling kids to stay out, or only one kid at a time, something like that, whatever it was. Beyond that, I have no idea what this was, but it was in the sticks somewhere on the coast going down. You can see the old camera I used. Now, these are some great shots of myself and JD playing golf. I think it's the JD here. He's a good swing, doesn't he? Yeah. And this is me. And I was surprised at looking at me. I guess I was in my, what was I? In my 40s or something. That wasn't a bad swing, because I never played golf. I hated golf because I used to caddy, and I hated the son of the bitches who I had to caddy for when I was in high school. That just seemed to me like a bunch of biggest assholes in the world. All that kind of country club set, So I don't know whether that's a good swing or not, but at least it's fluid, So I'll take that. But that's the extent of my golfing experience, I think. I played one more time, I think, when Art got married. I played with JD and with Art. That was about 10 years later, and then I didn't bother anymore. Here we're going through the woods. This is part of the Big Sur, I guess, whatever you want to call it, or that area around there. Those great California firs, and I think we're back now in whatever the main park is in San Francisco. It's a big public gathering. Everybody was skating. I know I tried to skate, and I just realized that it was crazy because I had lost my balance completely. I liked to skate as a kid, but they had these little two-wheel skates, like the ice skates. But JD, he seemed to do okay, and he was a big kid, so I don't have any of them here. There's the usual. Come to San Francisco and everybody's singing and dancing, and what can you do? And the rest is just park, I think. We really can't talk much about it. But it was a nice park on all levels. People skating, people just walking around in the gardens, which were really quite nice. And of course you had your pigeons too, so you can't go wrong there. And there's a little Chinese touch there, a Japanese touch, whatever. I don't remember this being a part of the park, but it had to be because that's where we were. It's me just turning around. This is that famous street, and this is our goodbye to San Francisco. Well, it looks like we're arriving somewhere. I have no idea the way these things are laid out, but that looks like the Golden Gate there. And here we are in Beats Me, but it's a nice sunset, nice oceans, so we're headed for somewhere, God knows, in the future. There we are.